Lawyers. What's a law that isn't real that normal people insist exists? This one's going to be good. An arrest isn't magically invalidated if the police don't read you your rights on the spot. There could be a whole thread of just misconceptions people have from watching cop TV. Miranda rights protect you from self-incrimination when being questioned by the police for a crime. It doesn't mean they have to Miranda you the second you get arrested. If you aren't questioned, then it doesn't apply. People also think it's illegal not to let them make a phone call after being arrested. In California, it's not illegal to discuss your wages with your co-workers despite what your boss might say. Edit, I'm a lawyer in California. I assume it's the same in the other 49 states, but don't want to speculate. It's actually not illegal anywhere in the United States to discuss wages or form/join a union, contrary to what many employers may claim. I also strongly recommend you do both to protect yourself and your colleagues from being taken advantage of. And I'm not sure if this is state by state or countrywide, but in some or all of the US, it's actually illegal for employers to try to prohibit it. A law that exists but is widely misunderstood is the concept of entrapment. If the police put a bait vehicle in a high crime area, that is not entrapment. If the police are watching a bar known to overserve to see if there are impaired drivers at the end of the night, that is not entrapment. Entrapment only occurs when a government agent suggests committing a crime that you were not otherwise going to commit. This actually happened to an old high school teacher of mine. He thought he was going on a date with a lady he met online. When they met up for the date, who happened to be an undercover officer, she was like, "I'm not really interested in a date, but for X dollars I'll do Y," to which he obliged. He was charged with soliciting a prostitute, but the charges were dropped since he was only actually interested in the date and had no desire to solicit anything until the officer brought it up. In my country, some people believe they can press charges against someone. You can't. You report a crime and the police decide if they are taking it further. It's not up to you whether charges are brought. You may want charges brought but the police drop the case. Alternatively, you can refuse to press charges and the police can bring a case anyway. It's harder without the victim or witness cooperation, but they still can. You do have a right to civil cases, of course, but when people say press charges, they believe they can do this via the police. In the UK, it's not illegal to park on someone else's driveway. It's classified as trespassing, a civil offence, not criminal, which means the police can't do anything. This particularly surprises people as many think they have exclusive rights to the parking outside their house as well. What recourse do you have? In my old London borough, you phone the council and they guarantee to turn up in an hour and tow it away, no questions asked. So long as you can prove you live there, that it's across in your property and you don't want it there, they tow it and charge the owner for recovery. It's not the same everywhere. Just because it's only a civil matter, you can just have it towed away yourself and charge the owner for recovery and storage. If nothing else, it's fly tipping. This isn't exactly what you're asking for, but I think it's valuable for people to know. You do not need to wait 24 hours to report someone as missing. I would hope not, since every cop drama I've ever watched says the first 48 hours are the most important. If someone has to wait 24 hours, they lost 24 hours of that 48. The crazy thing is that they say it on actual true crime shows, like, don't spread that misinformation. No laws against driving barefoot. Mandatory addition in the US. In Germany, while appropriate footwear is not directly required, you can be found at fault if your choice of footwear or lack thereof leads to your inability to avert an accident. I believe it's the same in Australia. If you have an accident whilst wearing flip-flops, you might struggle with insurance to prove that wearing them didn't cause or add to the causing of the accident. US, ex-lawyer here. There is no law that requires the police to provide you with their name and badge number when asked. There may be internal policies, but it's not the law. There is also no law that requires the police to get a supervisor if demanded. Again, policy versus law. There is no law that allows you to question whether an order given by the police is lawful or not. A court has to decide if the order was lawful after the fact. But there are laws to punish you if you do not comply. So what method is there, if any, to confirm an officer's identity? Asking because I live in a high trafficking area that has multiple instances of people being abducted by fake cops in unmarked vehicles, and the common advice around here is to ask for their badge number before even rolling down your window fully. Now that I think of it, anyone with half a brain could figure out how to make up an accurate sounding badge number though. I call dispatch and ask them to radio the officer. When I hear myself on the radio, I know he is legit. Police generally hate me for this. I just tell them to wait while I confirm their identity. As a former lawyer, UK, I lost count of the amount of people that thought jaywalking was a crime. Unless it's a road that specifically states no pedestrians or a motorway, no such offence exists here. Too much American media. It technically is a crime in America, so people think it applies in other places. In the UK, that it is illegal to drink under the age of 18. You can buy alcohol with a meal at 16, beer, wine, cider, and you are not breaking any laws if you give your child some alcohol in the privacy of your own home and they are over the age of 5. At 16, you have to be accompanied by an adult and it is paid for by the adult. You can buy alcohol with a meal, but do restaurants have a final say as to whether or not they'll serve it? Yes. The restaurant chain I used to work at wouldn't sell alcohol to anyone under 18, even if it was just one beer to have with a meal. Probably a good policy, to be honest. Used to hate it when a bunch of 18-year-olds would hire out my place's function room for a birthday party. Utter carnage. Negligent motorcycle driver forced me to hit him from behind with my car. I was young and naive at the time, never been in an accident until then. Guy makes me sign a paper that says that the accident is my fault because I hit from behind and wanted compensation. I explained the situation to my dad and he concluded that the guy was obstructing normal traffic and I had no option but to hit him from behind in the particular circumstance. The guy ended up taking us to court, showed the judge the piece of paper that I signed. I explained that I signed it under duress and that he explained that by law whoever hits from behind is responsible for the accident. Judge looked him in the eye and asked me if that's true. He said yes. Then she asked him to point out which law states that. He just shut the up. That guy. Although it usually is the case that the person is at fault, you are correct. It isn't always the case. Reminds me of something that happened with my mom. She was at a junction waiting to turn into a main road. The junction was on a slope. She hadn't engaged the handbrake properly and rolled backwards into the car behind her. There was a little bit of damage, but she knew she was at fault and gave the other person her insurance and contact details. She never heard from them. We reckon they thought the insurance would see it as their fault and decided to just pay for the minor damage themselves. I'm no lawyer, but I don't feel like most of the villains in Scooby-Doo committed any actual crime. I don't think it's against the law to put on a mask and scare some trespassers on your own property. What if there's an abandoned gold mine underneath it? I think it would still belong to the property owner. What if the entrance to the mine is on somebody else's property, but the gold is under yours? Dig a new shaft. Well, there you go. The one that is the most frustrating to me, even though it's not really a specific claim that a particular law exists, more a rule of evidence, is that's just hearsay. You have no evidence. Comes up all the time in all kinds of contexts. Even lawyers love using it when it suits them. Nothing but hearsay and speculation. Usually what people mean when they say that is, don't believe them, they're lying, which, fair enough, but that's not what hearsay means. Lots of evidence is just a person talking. That's what a witness is. It's why testimony exists. It's not evidence just because it's a person talking. Hearsay just means that in most cases you can't have a person A saying that person B said XYZ in order to prove that XYZ actually is true. Hearsay, get it? A heard B say it. It just means your witness can only talk about things they actually know about. Ah, interesting. Paralegal. A lot of people think that the law requires you to be a good, decent person. If I'm sitting on a bench and see a blind person about to walk into the path of a bus, it's completely legal for me, in the United States, to remain silent, take my cell phone out and take a video of his death. It's even legal for me to profit from the video. I'd be a monster for doing it, but there's no law imposing a duty on me to tell this stranger, watch out for that bus. You should never tell a blind guy to watch out for a bus. Listen out for that bus. Wow. Driving with interior overhead car lights on is not illegal. Your mom told you that was illegal when you were a kid too, huh? Yeah, my parents definitely told me that was illegal. Good Samaritan laws aren't nearly as broad as people think. For context, I work in emergency services. Some people believe that I was trying to help are the magic words that can get them out of any sticky situation. Good Samaritan laws vary by country and state, and the medical examples are a little more black and white than others. Adding a non-medical example of what I'm talking about, imagine you're driving your car and notice someone on the side of the road who needs help. As you swerve off the road to provide assistance to this person in need, you accidentally run over a child on the sidewalk. After the situation is over, you're definitely not free from the consequences of running over the child with your car just because you had good intentions of helping someone else. Versions of that story have occurred, and the drivers have tried to use a Good Samaritan defense because they meant well. There is absolutely some grey area on the subject, but if your unprompted action undoubtedly makes the situation worse, then if you've done nothing, having good intentions is not a get out of jail free card, and a bunch of people don't understand that concept. Fighting words is not a defense to battery. It just means that the government can prosecute face-to-face insults likely to lead to a breach of the peace. Not to say that provocation defenses don't exist dependent on jurisdiction, but fighting words in the US refers to an exception to the First Amendment. There was a big argument on Reddit the other day about whether spitting in someone's face is illegal. Hint, yes. It's specifically assault in almost all developed countries. Generally, however, there's nothing you can say to someone that justifies them hitting you. The guy who initiates the physical action or reasonably construed immediate threat of, e.g. jerking your fist towards someone after threatening them, is the one who's broken the law, not the guy who called him whatever. You can go 10 over the speed limit. My dad thought this was true as he was new to the country and quickly found out by a speeding ticket that it was not. It's federal law in the US that a plainclothes or undercover officer has to identify themselves as law enforcement if asked. No, it's not the law, and they can tell you whatever the f they want. I'm reminded of that Breaking Bad cold open where Badger gets arrested for selling product to an undercover officer because of this exact made up law, lol. They can do drugs to prove they aren't a cop too. An undercover cop went to court to get his rehab for cocaine covered by workers' comp. It was covered. Wow, that's insane. People think that it's illegal to be videotaped in a public space. I saw someone on Nextdoor complaining about my reasonable right to privacy in a public place when someone was shaming 20 people standing together for wanting to take out. Sorry, that's the opposite of how it works. If big time celebrities can't stop paparazzi from following them and their family 24/7, I have no clue why ordinary people believe that they have the right not to be caught on camera in public. Even though many people think so, there has actually never been a Danish law allowing you to beat up a Swede with a stick if he should walk across the ice on Øresund during winter. But even though the law has never existed, it doesn't mean it shouldn't. No jury would convict you. I'm not driving, I'm traveling. Oh god, I hate this one. I've seen a lot of videos like that on YouTube. So ridiculous. Freedom of speech in my country, that's from watching too many US movies. In Canada, it's pretty common for people to parrot American laws as if they were their own. Even in the US, most people don't understand freedom of speech. All it really means is that the state can't prevent you from saying or publishing certain things, i.e. speaking out against the government, controversial opinions, etc. It has nothing to do with interactions between private citizens. Unless someone is specifically inciting violence, I have absolutely no obligation to respect anyone's freedom of speech since I'm not the state. In many countries, escaping from prison is not an offence because the desire to be free is so inherent to humans that it needs to be respected. This is providing you don't commit another felony while escaping, like killing a guard. They cannot arrest a husband and wife for the same crime. I got the worst f***ing attorneys.